I'm talking about himself in the third person. Kill him. And on the third day, he will rise. Now, this is kind of a tender moment. I mean, they're on their way to Jerusalem. He's saying, now, when we get to Jerusalem, here's what's going to happen. When it happens, I don't want you to be surprised. When we get to Jerusalem, it's not going to be like other times when we've, been there. This is going to be different. So get ready. Make sure, you're all in. This is a tender moment, and I'm going to be arrested, spit on, flogged, killed, and the third day I'll rise. And then Mark tells us, then, like the very next thing, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. Really? Yeah, I mean, sorry about all that spitting and flogging and stuff, but hey, will you do us a favor? Hey, yeah, that sounds really bad. Okay, let's just don't be negative. Hey, will you do us a favor? If you're a parent, you've had this moment, where you've had those intimate encounters and talks with your kids, you're at dinner, or, you're kneeling by the bed, or you're kind of up in their face saying, son, never forget, and honey, always remember to, and you're kind of having that tender moment with your kids, and then you say, do you have any questions? And, you're sitting at the dinner table, and you think you've connected with your kids. They're so quiet, they're leaning in. Do you have any questions, kids? And one of your kids says, yeah, can we go upstairs now? Or, hey, Dad, when you talk, like one side of your mouth does something different than this. Have you noticed that? It's like, really? Okay, I've just poured out my heart, and you just want to go upstairs now? Well, that's the moment. Jesus has just shared all this stuff that's going to happen to him, and it's like, hey, that's awful. Hey, will you do us a favor? Will you do something for us? It's amazing. So he asked, what do you want? What do you want me to do for you? He asked. And the two apostles, they've kind of got Jesus off to the side. They said, let one of us sit on your right and the other on your left in your glory. After all that spitting and flogging and dying and stuff is over with. I mean, because we know that you're the king. And as we said last week, the apostles expected Jesus to eventually throw off his rabbinic robe and take on the king robe and be proclaimed the king of Israel. And their greatest concern at this point is, when you're the king, can we be close to you? When you're the king, when you're the ultimate authority, we know we can't be the king, but can we be like the left-hand guy and the right-hand guy? Can we exercise authority and power with you? And so their biggest concern is not what's going to happen to Jesus, but what's going to happen to them. And so they've kind of edged the other guys out a little bit. And it's like, hey, we're wondering, you'll probably have like the penthouse office, but can we have the corner offices right next to the penthouse office? Well, Jesus looks at them and says, you know what, you're not up to this. Even if I were to say yes, you couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle being that close to me. So he has a little conversation with them. And while Jesus is kind of fending them off, instead of getting mad like any of us would, it would be so humiliating. I mean, it would have been so disconcerting to just pour out your heart like that. And next thing you know, they haven't even listened. So Jesus is talking to these two. But meanwhile, Mark tells us, look what happens. When the 10 heard about this, so there's 2 talking to Jesus, there's the other 10 apostles. When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Now, we find out they weren't indignant like, how could you be so insensitive to Jesus? Here he is talking about spitting and flogging and dying, and you just want him to do you a favor. They weren't indignant like that. They were indignant because, hey, wait a minute. We want to be on the left and the right too. We don't want to be left out. And next thing you know, there's like a big food fight. There's a big fight over who gets what. And you got a laptop, and you got a window, and I have a cube, and And next thing you know, the 12 apostles are all fighting and arguing over who gets what when Jesus becomes the king. And Jesus realizes, okay, you guys have not been paying attention. So he calls a halt before they get to Jerusalem, has them all sit down under the sycamore tree. I just made that part up. He says, okay, before we get to Jerusalem, okay, wait. We have been over this before, but let's go over it one more time. And this is the moment where Jesus spells out for them what leadership is all about in the kingdom of heaven, what leadership is all about in the kingdom of God, the way that he would lead. And then he's going to say to them, and he says to us, when you're the leader, when you have authority, when you're exercising authority over people, here's the way you do it. If you're going to be my follower, you have to follow me in the exercise of authority and power. Here's what he says. So Jesus called them together and he said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. He uses 2 different Greek terms that basically mean the same thing, and here's what he's saying. He's saying, you know how leadership works. If you're the leader, then you lord it over all the people who are under your authority. You know how authority works. When you're the one in authority, then you leverage your authority for what's best for you. Everybody who's under your authority.